Turns out he was murdered by this crazy man. And get this, that crazy man was traveling with a little girl.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Well, so ugh, I've been simultaneously watching 3 things. So it's been throwing me off. Like, it was like, quick, I need to watch all these things at once. I'm watching The Chosen, I'm watching Mandalorian, I'm watching Last of Us. So for me to get like a clear picture of what I watched in each thing without actually running through it is going to be challenging. This whole episode, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. It starts off with he's in the basement. The guys are coming still. Guys are coming to look for him. Oh no, is that no? She in the basement. She goes out, kills a deer. Some dudes try to take the deer. They get inside the whole thing. Okay, this is when
Yes.
Casey from El Camino is introduced. As soon as I saw this guy, I'm like, dude, that's the fake cop from El Camino, and he's like just as skeezy in this as he was there.
Yeah.
And honestly, perfect. This guy is wicked creepy. Like, you see this guy and you're like, yeah, he's the creepy scoutmaster type character. Like, yeah, he's off. This guy, he's gonna be typecasted as this type of character forever.
Way off.
And the way that he played it, spot on. Did I feel uncomfortable watching this? Absolutely, and that was the point.
Yes.
Absolutely, that was the point. He did a fantastic job in this role. But overall, I thought the episode, like, as it ended, I thought was great. There were some cliche lines that I was like, ugh. Like, I'm saying the lines before they say them, and I'm like, I'm a little disappointed that they're being so cliche. But I mean, hey, whatever. It's a show based off of a video game, so I can allow it. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. So that's that.
Chuck?
It was overall
Okay.
overall it was good.
Okay. Chuck?
I liked it.
Okay.
I didn't love it.
Okay.
I liked it.
What didn't you love? Let's start there. What irked you?
Didn't I love?
Yeah, because if you say you liked it, you didn't love it. Something irked you.
Well, they took a lot out.
Yes, they did.
They took a lot.
Well, I
Like-
mean, they only have a couple episodes, so what
but
are
they
gonna
took
do?
a lot out. Like, I wish, like in the game, she's super stealthy when she's shooting the deer, and she's using a bow. She's not using a gun, which takes more skill. Never see her using that in here. When she comes across, it's David and Todd. Is that his name?
James.
James. That's right. They hide out in the cabin that they're in, and in the game, they get like, you are fighting off like 3 or 4 swarms of infected.
That was my big disappointment.
Not a single infected this entire episode.
None.
No. Nope.
They're all over in the game. Like,
yes.
it's one thing after another after another.
There's
you go to
even
the town,
there's even a bloater in this scene in the game.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. It was
And then when Joel comes to, and he's going and doing his thing, there is a whole sequence of him trying to get through the first town that he's in to get to the next town, which doesn't really, he fights
doesn't
two
happen.
guys.
Doesn't happen at all.
Doesn't happen. Then when she finally escapes before she gets into the restaurant at the end, she has to maneuver through this entire whiteout blizzard that just doesn't take place in the episode at all. So they hit on some of the main points, but they left a lot out, and they didn't bring any infected in. So I think those were my biggest. Joel healed up way too quickly in this compared to the game. Like, he's walking and stumbling through the first part of town.
Yeah.
I did appreciate that I did appreciate the scene where the whole point to the map scene. I did appreciate that they brought that into it. I thought it was perfect. That was straight out of the game. That was perfect.
That's okay. I
Um,
believe him.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
the end part with Ellie and Todd or
David.
David, sorry. I don't know why I have
David.
Todd in my mind,
Yeah.
but Ellie and David in
It's
the
probably
game.
because Lee brought up El Camino, so now you got Todd stuck
Yeah.
on your brain.
Todd, yeah,
Meth
probably.
Damon.
Yeah.
Meth Damon.
Meth Damon.
Ellie and David, that whole thing in the restaurant is in the game is so much more epic and than what in this game it's like anticlimactic
In the show.
in the show.
Yeah.
Sorry. The episode's not as climactic as the game is.
Hmm.
They end it the same way. I mean, she uses a machete in the game and she uses a cleaver, a butcher's cleaver in this, and they do the same thing, but it doesn't have the same. I'll put it this way: since Joel got stabbed in the gut versus falling on that, the breathtakingness away that happened in the game is lost in the episodes now. For me.
Completely gone.
Like,
Yeah, I know what
It's
you mean.
completely gone.
Yeah.
Because there are so many times where you're like, because you leave in the game, you leave Joel, and she's having this fight with David, and you don't know. She actually gets outside and she's running away before she runs into Joel. He doesn't come inside the building.
He comes inside the building in the game and stops her from stabbing him because you know it's a whole.
He stops from continuously stabbing.
Yes,
him.
continuously. Yes, yes.
Right. It's they. I'll put it this way: the first 2 episodes had me for like, I fell in love with it. I still enjoy the TV show, and I think they're still doing justice. Like they're still following the storyline to the game fairly well, but they've lost me in a lot of different cases where there's no infected. They're taking out important parts from the game to the TV show. They're adding in stuff that never was part of the game in the first place. They could have left that stuff out and put the important stuff back in. The character-wise, they nailed it. Storyline, they've lost me because they took out so much stuff to a degree. They've lost me to a degree. If there's no infected in the last episode, because the next part is like one of the hardest parts of the game to get past infected when you're in the tunnel.
Yeah.
And if they don't do that next episode, I'm going to be let down big time. And it doesn't give anything away. So.
Okay. I feel the same way that you do. I'm more critical though. I maintain. I think what this show is doing right now, I think this should be the standard from when you're adapting something from a video game to live action. I think this should be the standard moving forward. In that regard, it stands head and shoulders above anything else of this caliber. I mean that. This, however, the fact that there was no infected in this episode, because in the game when you're playing as Ellie and you have to save Joel's life, you come across David and the two of you have to fight side by side and you have to fight off all the infected. That makes everything that happens later with David so much more impactful. It means so much more after all of that takes place because you fought side by side with this person. So I'm really disappointed that they just kind of threw that out. I'm also kind of disappointed that they wrote in this ridiculous element to David's character, how he was a teacher turned preacher because it rhymes. I thought that was absolutely ridiculous and not needed at all. You could have pulled off the same thing.
No. He was just like joking with her because she said that. He didn't. Say, yeah, that's why
he is not a preacher in the game. He's just a creepy dude in the game, and it meant so much more. You didn't have to add this little piece in where he has this flock of people who are following him and calling him father and everything else. None of that is in the game. You didn't need to bring in the of that in the game. The whole point in the game was, listen, here's this group that you're encountering. They're cannibals. He's creepy about it, and in the game, the whole town is almost on board with everything that they're doing. Like, everybody's in agreement about what's going on. They're not, trying to hide anything. Here, only a couple of people know that they're, eating people. Are you
Eating
serious?
people?
And
What?
you even have the group that's on the outside hunting, down Joel and Ellie, talking about just killing Ellie right now to sparing her. Like, none of that's going on in the game. They're all actively trying to end your life. They're all
Well, he's a
shooting at you. It's
pervert.
ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous how he is in the game compared to the show. That's my first
Well-
problem. Mike, go ahead.
Well, to add to that, in the show, there she gets disgusted because she sees an ear.
Mhm.
Yeah.
the game,
Yeah.
There's a bucket of arms and legs just
They
sitting there.
chop
Which Joel
off
sees later on.
they chop off an arm as she's waking up. She's in the cell. They got the guy on the table. They're chopping off an arm and making meat, and that's the first thing that she sees.
Yeah.
And they completely remove all of that. You could have done that and driven home how creepy this group is, how insane and perverted this guy is, all right there. It could have all been solved right there.
Which
I
is
think-
the only reason why he doesn't want to kill her.
So I think this is
Oh,
me
I'll
just
get to
kind of
that.
guessing other things I've seen. So this whole show has been like, action sci-fi for the most part. This episode is very much more a horror film. It's very much more horror than it is, sci-fi action thriller.
Yeah.
And if they went further with it, it would be undoubtedly action. Like I think that's the whole point. Undoubtedly horror, not an action thriller or anything like that. Like that's the thing. I was watching this saying, if the whole show is like this, I probably would not watch it because I just can't do horror anymore. But this was really teetering on the what's acceptable, or it was beyond what's acceptable. But I looked at it and said, it's just one episode and it fills in the gap here. If they went further with it, I probably wouldn't want to watch.
In the game, it's action thriller because there's a lot of action and you have these
Right.
You have this creepy guy. In the game, he's can I say it? Would you say it?
In the game, he's
The
no.
Okay.
Save it for next week.
Okay.
Okay.
Save that for next week.
Because they that's another part I hate too is they dumbed it down.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
But
whatever. The point is, I'm just thinking that the way they did it this way because they had to pull it back. They had to dumb it down. They had to for it to be consistent through. With it going from it transitioning from video game to this. I mean, we've already seen them kind of like veer off and do different things and add to the story and whatnot just to kind of hit different audiences. And I think if they went as far as the game did, the way that you're describing it, it would have turned off a lot more audiences or a lot more people, viewers even more.
I
don't
think
think it would've.
I don't think it would have either. I think your like perception of the public and what's tolerable, I just think you have a weak stomach compared to everybody else who's out there watching
Well,
something like this.
Now I do. I'm just saying from
if you actually played the game and then watched this, it wouldn't be horror. The game was not scary at all in this part. The game was like the scariest parts were back in the museum when it's
Mhm.
dark and
right.
you're introduced to clickers for the first time, and they did that really well in the TV show in the show. In this part though, it's not scary whatsoever. He's just a big pervert on
Pretty
top
much.
of being a cannibal.
Mhm.
And that's the only reason why he keeps her alive. That's why in the game, he tells everybody else that he's keeping her alive for blah, 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 reasons. In his own mind, they want to eat her and he just wants her,
Mhm.
which is why he's keeping her alive.
Right.
But I did like the whole thing about how she's in the cage and she breaks his fingers because that's exactly what happens in the game. Like she doesn't relent at all. I like that they keep little things like that in there. But this whole the whole presentation of David was something that I was looking forward to from the jump. I was
Yeah, me
thinking
too.
in my mind, I was thinking, David, I was kind of hoping that they would tell David's story throughout the whole show. because he's such a pivotal character in the game. Even though he comes at the end of the game, he's such an important character throughout the whole thing. I was like, they have to find a way, and they found a way to not do that. They found a way to write around it, and they wrote in Kathleen. It's the only reason why they wrote in that character was so they didn't have to introduce David earlier, and it's a shame. It's an absolute shame to me.
But aside from David, that's what I was saying before, is they're doing a great job character building with Ellie and
Joel.
with Joel.
Yes.
Storyline, which is what sold the game in the first place, they veered away from. And I think they're going to lose a lot of people who loved the game to a degree because they've changed the storyline so much. The detailed parts of the story. And they made it this broad stroke.
Another thing
that's the part I don't like.
Another small thing that they changed that I really didn't appreciate. I really did not like this. So last week, you get this whole thing where Ellie is trying to fix up Joel and she has to sew his wound shut and all that other stuff, right? He's awake. He's not catatonic. He's not unconscious. He's aware of his surroundings. And here, he's kind of in and out. So he's aware of what's going on. And when she says, here's this knife, people are coming, kill them, and she leaves, he has the wherewithal to kind of retain that. In the game, he just wakes up and she's gone and he has to go find her, which is so much better than what they did here. It's ridiculous.
He's not fighting two guys. He's fighting like 12.
An army. There's an army out there that you have to, gun your way down through to finally make it to where Ellie is. And it's this super important moment how you're going back and forth between Ellie fighting these people and Joel fighting these people, and then in the end they both come together. And it just kind of, it's in that moment where he finally calls her baby girl, where it just kind of solidifies their relationship, and we're off to the races from there, which was fantastic here. And even like you were saying before, Chuck, how in the game, when she's stabbing him, she does not stop stabbing him, which I have no love lost for him because he's a creepy pedo, so stab him all you want to. Joel comes in and stops her mid-stab. Like, he's already dead and she's just going to town. Joel comes in and stops her. Here, she stops on her own and she wanders outside and he's there waiting for her. Why? Why not just have him go into the building that's burning? Like you see in the game, the building is burning. Oh, I should go. It would have been so simple. It would have been so easy. Yeah. But no, they dumbed it down, and I have no idea why. Do they not want, and this is my worry, do they not want a memorable villain?
This guy is like, he's a good villain.
He's such a good villain in the game. And they
amazing.
I don't understand.
Just pops out of nowhere. He pops out of nowhere, and you're like, where did this guy come from? And then you're like, okay. And you the whole time, the back and forth they did well in this. They showed that like they do in the game. But in the game, you're like, when you leave Ellie and you become Joel, all that's going through your mind is, what the heck is going on with Ellie? Because you're actually playing Joel, and you're like, I'm worried for Ellie, because as the person playing, what's happening. And you're like, I don't know what to do now.
So the reason why I've been starting with Lee is because I'm kind of viewing him as the barometer for the casual, well, not the casual, but the fan that hasn't played the game. And if he says that he really enjoyed David and it was a great villain, played it fantastically and whatnot, fine. I have no problems there. He was great for TV. Personally, for me, I think he was dumbed down. I could have done with him being... There are ways to make him 10 times more effective than what he actually was. And that was my issue walking away from it. Aside from that, I thought the character building between Joel and Ellie and the way that they solidify their relationship and all that good stuff, and the way that he finally embraces her at the end and baby girl and that whole thing, I thought it was fantastic. I thought the way that Bella Ramsey played that part where she's finally done and she just buries herself into his arms, I thought it was great. All of that was great. Everything about that was great. Even, like you said before, Joel, with the two guys and he's torturing one to get information out of the other, was fantastic. Straight out of the game. I don't have any complaints with that at all. Yeah, and that's basically how I'm feeling.
I'm with you.
All right.
Hey everybody, Lee from Black and White Reviews here. Just wanted to take a moment to thank you for tuning in, checking out our conversation. If you like this discussion and you want to hear more about this specific subject or other things, check us out on our podcasting sites, whether it's Spotify, Apple Music, or Google Podcasts. We're up on pretty much all of them. So yeah, thanks again for popping by, and yeah, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks.